Hello there, this is Denzin, welcome to another video, and today I'm looking at this bit of a beast. This is my operations and med lab for Hadley's Hope on Lv426, carrying on with the alien theme and some Lv427-designs which have been 3D printed, and I'm going to focus in on a little bit here and look at the ins and outs of operations, which is this section here. So if you zoom in a bit, here we go. So this is the section on Hadley's Hope. If you've seen the movie Aliens, I mean, how could you not have? Then this is where we have our little last stand, where originally the colonists met their end, but of course the Marines barricade themselves in. And looking at what is this section, what's it all about, what have we got here? So a fantastic bit of resource for this was the blueprints book, which I have just over here, which really goes into the floor plans of every single movie. If you want to look at the Nostromo, if you want to look at the colony on Hadley's Hope, the blueprints are there. It's fantastic. It's got the dropship, the vehicles, and so on. Another resource over here is the RPG, and they do differ slightly, which is interesting. So I had to pick which one do I actually think is a bit more accurate or just makes sense a little bit more. I mean, obviously an RPG is designed for gaming rather than anything that could be a true representation. But then what is a true representation of something that is a movie? And of course the movie does take license as well. There's always a bit of a TARDIS thing going on where there's more things going on indoors than there should be on the blueprints and so on. But we'll go into that later. So I'm going to focus on the operations section here, and let's have a look at where we are, what exactly is in operations. So according to the blueprints over here, we've got med lab, we'll look at that later. Over here is operations, and we have various desks and who sits where and who works where. Good bit of fluff. If this was a real world situation, I love the fact that it's all been drawn up for the managers of Weyland-Yutani. It's got the actual crews working there and so on, and the staff members. Now, let's have a look at where we are. Now, this is the outside windows here, the viewports. So when they're looking through at the atmosphere processor, when it's letting off a bit of ventilation, when it's going to blow, that's where they're looking out the window. And Vasquez closes the shutters. Apparently that is here. Here's our little table where they all plan where their barricades are going to go. Now, what's interesting on the blueprints is it actually says this is their hollow table. So if you've seen the Prometheus prequels, there's an actual hologram thing coming up out of the table on the bridge. And apparently this had the same capabilities. They just didn't use it in Aliens. I don't know why, because maybe it's an older movie and they didn't have that special effect. But anyway, that's been retconned a little bit to say that that has that capability. Maybe it was broken when the Marines got there and didn't use it for that reason. That will do. Here we have some main monitoring stations. So here you'd have the CCTV where Burke turns it off so you don't see Ripley and Newt in trouble in the med lab. But it's also the main monitoring stations for the atmosphere processor, which they could see out of the viewports here. So they will be operating from there. And that's all looked over by the managers. Now, the two men that run the place, the manager's desks are here, and the assistant manager's over here. And if you've seen a special edition, you would have seen them leading operations, having a bit of a chat. And that's where they would operate from, these little desks here, overlooking the rest of the situation that's going on in the main operations rooms. So there's a lot of little desks scattered about. The main entrance, though, is over here. Now, this is where 3D printing is slightly different to what would be a true representation, because the exit here, there should be one long corridor going past MedLab, and it doesn't. It juts out because MedLab turns out to be a little bit bigger in real life, so my corridor has to jink a little bit for that to work. And Lv427-designs thought about that, and they did a sort of operations airlock sort of thing, if you like a main entrance way, which kind of squares it off a little bit, but it's all right. It does the job, I think. Not too bad at all. So we've got various workstations, as you can see. And then we have the main egress way up to the med lab. This is where Burke runs and locks the door on everybody so they can't get out. And Vasquez starts pumping grenade shots across here, which is very nice of her. But this is always something that's intrigued me when looking at this board and the blueprints, is you realise a little bit more about the movie when you watch it. So when you think about that scene where they've cut the power and they suddenly go out with their motion trackers and they're coming and they're 4 meters away, 3 meters away. They should be through the door that's inside the room. Well, let's look at that. So there's the door. So the Marines would all be here. I mean, I've got some colonists scattered about at the moment, as you can see, rather than Marines. So the Marines are here, waiting for all the aliens to come piling in for that door. And then, of course, they all twig, don't they, and all look up at the ceiling. And then Hicks goes up through a hatch, looks up, and if you think about what he does, he goes up and he shines his torch around. And then he falls down, gunning this way, shooting into the ceiling. And the aliens come down here. They don't come down here in front of the door where you'd expect them to be coming. They're over here. Why is that? So it's as if the aliens are coming along and they've gone sort of looping around slightly to sort of do a Horns of the Buffalo Zulu approach and try and surround the Marines, I guess. But they turn it around on itself. And I guess because the set was bigger this way and you want more room for them to go shooting across. So the aliens start dropping here. Burke runs around the corner here. Everyone's shooting in this direction. Ripley comes over here with Newt, shoots her first alien here. And then as they all start to pull away, Hudson gets dragged away down around here. Whilst the rest of the Marines then, of course, try and evacuate towards the med lab in that direction. So, yeah, when you watch these films, you don't really take in the ins and outs of that, do you really? But when you get a 3D representation, you start looking at it in a bit more depth and you think, oh, hang on a minute. Yeah, that's a little bit more different than I thought. Anyway, that's my observations. But I would really recommend the Blueprint book. It is a fantastic reference. And Lv427-designs have done a fantastic bit of kit here. Now, I will go in on another video about MedLab, I think, and why I've decided what goes over here, because that's not really clear in the blueprints. And the blueprints differ from the RPG on what goes in this area here on the other side from MedLab and operations. My big goal here is I've got an entire wing of Hadley's Hope operations here. What I don't have is any living quarters. It's all operations and med lab really. But when we go back to the blueprints, I mean, fantastic that they are. You know, the outside of the buildings as well, and then you get this sort of cross section. So this is what I'm really looking at here. So here we have the operations section, and this is an above floor. I really want to do the ground floor. That's my aim. In which case, this needs to be elevated so I can do multiple levels as one massive building. Now this is huge, isn't it? Look, it all comes apart, as you can see. There we go. So it can be stored a lot easier. But it does take up a lot of room when out, but it's a magnificent piece. Is it practical for gaming on? Now, Lv427-designs do, what's funny, 3 different versions of operations. So this is the movie version, but there's also one for the Gale Force 9 game, and there's another one for the older game, which I've already looked at on my channel, which has just come out now as a file, which is smaller than this, and is designed so each square is represented on the original board game, which makes sense. But this, I suppose you could say, was the movie accurate version. Almost. There's a few variations of what was in operations. But the lower floor is what I really would like to do. But to make that work, I have done a little bit of my own 3D printing by doing an exterior wall, which you can probably just work out here along the edge. So if I take this off here, there we go, got an outside section. So over the windows, oh look, I can open the window. you can look out the window. Anyway, so yes, I've done this myself. It's very simple, really. It was on SketchUp 3D program, and then printed that out and just stuck it on the side of this original print. I also made all my little monitors green, and that's after playing Aliens Dark Descent, which is a video game where anything that you could go up to and touch, like a computer monitor, had that little eerie green glow, which works with that retro futuristic computer, I think. And there goes my chairs. Get back there. So yes, at the moment I have colonists inhabiting this section. Some of these are 3D printed as well. Some of them are Wargames Atlantic. That's a Wargames Atlantic cannon fodder with some 3D printed civilian sections on them. And I would like to do a game that isn't just Colonial Marines, but what about the actual colonists? What happened to them? What about a game showing them? I've got a couple of working Joes, if you know Alien Isolation, just strutting about the place as well. But anyway, that's Operations. I don't know what you think, but I think it's a fantastic bit of kit. It was a labour of love, and it is something that 13-year-old me would probably just drool over. So that's it for this video. Thank you very much for watching and listening to my rambles, and I shall be back with MedLab.